Part 52. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 512. Thank you, Lu Qing said tiredly to Len Ning. Then he took the functional drink with the cap unscrewed from his father's hand and drank it in big gulps. Then he ate the bread that his father had unpacked for him. Looking at Lu Qing's embarrassed appearance, Len Ning felt a little touched in his heart. Eat slowly, I still have some here, then he said. Then he handed over some more bread. Thank you, Miss Leng. Lu Qing hurriedly thanked Len Ning, smiled sheepishly, and slowed down her eating of bread. Len Ning raised the corners of his lips and did not look at Lu Qing again. Dad, you eat too, Lu Qing said to Lu Rud after eating another piece of bread. You eat, I'm not hungry, Lu Rud said quickly. Master Lei gave me a lot of good food. I'm full. You can eat it. Seeing Lu Qing's insistence, Lu Rud added. Mr. Lei did give him 2 pieces of bread and a carton of milk. For him who was very hungry, this was hardly a full meal. But this was enough for him to regain a lot of strength. No, his cough is much better. Now his son needs food supplies more than he does. After hearing Lu Rud's words, Lu Qing continued to gnaw on the bread. Lu Rud looked at Lu Qing's appearance and wanted to cry. But he couldn't cry. He should be happy right now. After another 10 minutes, when Lu Qing finished eating her food and regained some energy, Len Ning took out the bag Lu Qing had given her. You have these things, as I promised before. If there is space jade, I will take half of it. I will open this bag and take a look. Len Ning looked at the rear-view mirror in the car and said to Lu Qing in the back seat. Miss Leng, you can choose whether you want to keep it or not, Lu Qing said with a weak smile. Haha, even if you say this, I can't leave it for you, right? Len Ning smiled and took out a basket from the space ring. Then he poured the contents of the bag into the basket. Then, in front of the father and son in the back row, he began to select jade. Leaving only the jade items behind, Len Ning poured all the unwanted treasures back into the bag. Then he selected among the jades. I saw her quickly throwing the unwanted jade into the bag. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. He put a pendant aside. Soon there will be a second one. The father and son in the back row stared at Len Ning without blinking, not daring to breathe louder. Finally, Len Ning finally screamed out all the space jades. That's right, 4 of them are space jades. Len Ning kept the 4 space jades, put the rest in the bag, and handed them directly to the back seat. Lu Rud took the bag and sent it to Lu Qing with some effort. Since Miss Leng likes it, I'll give it all to you. Lu Qing looked at the space jade in Len Ning's hand with some reluctance in her eyes, but she quickly adjusted her emotions and said to Len Ning sincerely. Miss Leng had shown such great kindness to them, and his small token of thanks was nothing. Sincerely, Len Ning looked at Lu Qing with a smile, as if he was really not ready to return it. Really? Lu Qing raised the corners of her lips. His eyes were very serious. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing, took out 2 pieces of space jade, and handed them over. I keep my word, and I only want half of it from you. Lu Qing was shocked. Take it, Len Ning urged. Lu Rud smiled on his face and said, Miss Leng asks you to take it, so just take it. Thank you, Miss Leng. Lu Qing hurriedly thanked Len Ning and reached out to take the 2 space jades. You can put your bag of things in, Len Ning reminded kindly. Just touch the space jade to the bag and operate it with your mind. A flash of excitement flashed in Lu Qing's eyes, and she quickly tried it with a space jade. As Len Ning said, the bag was successfully received into the space jade. Lu Rud was also extremely surprised when he saw this. Then, Lu Qing used the same method to take out the bag. Then, put it in again and try. Lu Qing was ecstatic. It wouldn't be too convenient to have such a treasure. After a while, Lu Qing finally calmed down. Looking at his father's curious expression, he gave Lu Rud the space ring that was easy to wear. Dad, let's have one each. As she spoke, Lu Qing wrapped the remaining space pendant bracelet around her wrist. A flash of excitement flashed in Lu Rud's eyes, and he took the ring handed over by Lu Qing. After his father put on the space ring, Lu Qing immediately took out the bag and taught Lu Rud how to store and retrieve objects. Lu Rud quickly mastered the method, with a smile on his face, and he was very happy. Len Ning looked at the interaction between father and son from the rearview mirror in the car, feeling very good about it. At this moment, she missed her mother at home. The car continued to drive, and before 12 noon, the four of them finally returned to the Thunder base. The father and son in the back row looked at the scene of the Thunder base on the road, suspecting that they had returned to the pre-apocalypse. People, so many people. There seemed to be street shops and the like. This looks completely pre-apocalyptic. Finally, the car drove up the mountain and returned to Lei's house. "We're here, get out of the car," Len Ning said to the father and son in the back seat, then opened the door and got out of the car. Lu Qing hurriedly opened the door, endured her physical discomfort, and helped Lu Rud get out of the car. The father and son looked at the domineering villa in front of them, feeling a sense of awe in their hearts. "It's time for dinner. Let's have a casual meal at our house first. I'll make arrangements for you later," Len Ning said to the father and son with a smile. "Okay, here's Miss Lao Len," Lu Rud said. "You're welcome." Len Ning led the two of them inside. "Mom, we're back," Len Ning shouted into the yard as soon as he walked into the yard. "You know how to come back. You shouldn't go out on the first day of the new year." Lei Mu's complaint soon came from inside. Then, Lei Mu appeared chattering. Lei's mother stopped nagging when she saw two thin and frail people following Lei and Len Ning. "Are there guests?" then he asked Lei and Len Ning. "Oh, this is Mr. Lu, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs in Kyoto, and his son Lu Qing. My eldest brother and I met at the villa in the central district of the city," Len Ning said to Lei Mu with a smile. When Lei's mother heard that Lu Rud's identity was so valuable, her expression immediately became serious. "Hello, Mr. Lu. Please come inside, please come inside," Lei's mother hurriedly smiled and said to the Lu family and his son. "Mrs. Lei, you're so polite." "What a nuisance," Lu Rud hurriedly said to Lei's mother. "Please, please," Lei's mother glanced at Lei Ting, her enthusiasm leading the way. Soon, the group went to the living room. At this time, the Lu family's father and son saw steaming delicacies already being served in the restaurant not far away. The scent made them salivate, and it took a lot of effort for them to control themselves and not look over there. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 513. Lei's mother naturally noticed the demeanor of the father and son, and simply greeted them. After chatting for a few words with Lu Rud, she suggested that they chat while eating. So, just like that, on the first day of the new year, the Lu family and his son had the best meal they had since the end of the world. It has to be said that the father and son are indeed from an upper-class family. Although they are extremely hungry, they are still very restrained when eating and appear to be very well educated. This also made Lei's family think highly of them. In the end, the meal ended with the Lu family and his son almost overeating. After the meal, Lei personally arranged accommodation for the Lu family and his son, saying that he wanted them to settle down first. The Lu family and his son were extremely grateful and said goodbye to the Lei family. "Brother, how are you going to arrange them?" Len Ning asked Lei curiously. "The military department is short of diplomats," Lei replied. "He wants to build a safe zone and needs people to lobby the major bases to cooperate. The existing people are not strong enough." Lu Rud appeared at this time and helped him a lot. Although it is the end of the world, Lu Rud's status before the end of the world will make all major bases take a higher look at the Thunder base. After all, not everyone can hire such a person. Len Ning's eyes lit up. "Where's Lu Qing?" he then asked. "Lu Rud is naturally very useful, but Lu Qing is of little use. After all, That kid needs diplomatic skills, but he has no diplomatic skills. There is no superpower if you want it. Lei Lei suddenly looked at Len Ning. There was still some displeasure in his eyes. Did Xiao Ning take too much care of that boy? Don't worry about that kid's affairs then, he said in a deep voice. That boy is indeed good looking, and he was still a star before the end of the world. At that time, the report sent by the people below stated that the vast majority of the boy's fans were young women. Thinking of this, Lei Lei felt even more unhappy. Len Ning was stunned for a moment, then a smile filled his eyes. Brother, are you jealous? He then said in a coquettish tone, blinking at Lei Lei with his big innocent eyes. Lei Lei took a breath. Len Ning curled up his lips, stood up and walked to Lei Ting's side, then sat down on Lei Ting's lap. Lei Lei immediately hugged Len Ning's waist consciously. I muttered something silently in my mind, grinding people. In my heart, eldest brother is the most attractive man. As he said this, he looked at Lei Lei's perfect profile, and when he came up to him, he said. By chance, Lei Ting's head turned, and he kissed Lei Ting directly on the lips. Then there was a series of counterattacks, violent winds and rain. When Len Ning was panting and released, Len Ning almost ran out of energy. He quickly seized the opportunity and escaped from Thunder's arms. Then he ran away quickly and stood far away. Looking at Lei Lei's eyes that were almost on fire, Len Ning called out that he had been careless just now. Haha, Mom asked me to accompany her to sort out her belongings. I'm leaving first, brother, bye, Len Ning said hurriedly when he saw Lei Lei preparing to get up. As he spoke, he ran towards the door. If nothing happens next time, she will never dare to set a fire again. Thunder. After leaving Lei Lei's room, Len Ning blew the cool breeze in the corridor for a while, which finally dissipated the heat on his face. Now she didn't have the guts to face Thunder anymore, so she really went to find Lei's mother. Arriving at Lei Mu's door, Len Ning found that Lei Mu's door was open. Just when he was about to speak out, he saw Lei's mother looking at a photo in a trance. Len Ning was curious and walked towards Lei Mu. After getting closer, she saw clearly that the photos in Lei's mother's hand were of two people she didn't recognize. Although I don't know him, he looks familiar. Looking carefully. Yeah, you scared me. Lei's mother suddenly noticed Len Ning, and was so frightened that she leaned the photo against her arms and said in surprise. Len Ning smiled, whose photo is Mom looking at? After being discovered, Len Ning brazenly approached. Lei's mother glanced at Len Ning, then spread the photo in front of her. A photo of me and your godfather when we were young, then he said with a bit of embarrassment on his face. Because of Lei Ting's father's special status, he rarely takes photos. They have been together for several years, and they only have this one photo together. After the apocalypse, she thought the photos would never be recovered. Unexpectedly, her son and daughter actually ran back and moved all her things, including this photo. Lei Mu caressed the photo and looked at the handsome man in the photo, with a hint of happiness on his face. No wonder it looks so familiar, Len Ning smiled and looked at the photo closer. Mom was so beautiful when she was young. My godfather is so handsome too. She now understood why her eldest brother was so good looking. Most of his facial features were inherited from her godfather. Looking at Lei Mu's happy expression as she looked at the photo, Len Ning felt a little touched in her heart. What kind of relationship is it that makes my mother still love him as much as ever after her godfather left for so many years? She actually met her godfather when she was a child, but she was too young at that time and had almost no concrete impression of him. Hey, if my godfather hadn't died, my mother would be happier now. It's this face that confuses me. Haha. Lei's mother looked at Lei Ting's father in the photo and said happily. Hey, Mom is really not ashamed, Len Ning said with a smile. What are you ashamed of? Aren't you greedy for Lei Ting's beauty? Lei's mother looked at Len Ning with a smirk. Len Ning suddenly remembered the handsome face that Lei Lei had put in front of him just now, and then his face turned red. See? You can't even resist, haha. Lei's mother laughed out loud. Hey, Mom, where can I find someone like you? Len Ning really admired his mother's shamelessness. She didn't realize it before, but now she realizes how naughty her mother is. However, although she was embarrassed by her mother at the moment, she actually liked her mother's change in her heart. In the past, my mother treated her as if she were a fragile doll, and she was too careful and caring. Nothing could be better than now, when he would joke with himself and make fun of himself. Humph, I love you as a mother. As the saying goes, the wealth should not go to outsiders. Thunder is so good that you have to win it quickly, Lei's mother said angrily. Len Ning felt a little regretful at the moment. She seems to have come to the wrong place. Lei's temperament is very similar to that of his father. Once he identifies a person, he is very honest. You have to believe in mother's vision, Lei's mother said again. I know. Got it? Seeing Len Ning's reaction, Lei's mother sighed. Can't the wedding date be brought forward? Then he looked at Len Ning and asked. Haha, it's mainly because eldest brother and I are both very busy. When the safe zone is built and Cydia is safe, we will feel more at ease, right? Len Ning said to Lei Mu with a smile. Just make excuses. Lei's mother glanced at Len Ning angrily. Hey, Mom, Len Ning called Lei's mother coquettishly and sat down next to Lei's mother. Lei Mu's heart softened instantly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 514. Before, I thought that while I was still flexible, I could help you take care of your children. Lei's mother held one of Len Ning's hands and said. It's also because you and Lei are both busy, and I don't have much to socialize with, so it's inevitable that I'll be bored. I just thought it would be more lively if I have a kid at home. Len Ning was stunned. Looking at Lei's mother looking lonely, I suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in my heart. Since returning to Thunder Base, she has been busy with her own affairs and spends very little time with her mother. I was just thinking about myself, simplifying things. Lei's mother sighed. Lao Yang has already found someone to calculate the date. The third day of the lunar month next month will be a good day. Then you and Lei will get engaged first. As for the marriage, well, just follow your own wishes. Len Ning's face turned red. There was a surge of emotion in my heart. Thank you, Mom. Then she leaned into Lei's mother's arms with a happy face. Lei Mu patted Len Ning's arm and smiled on her face. After experiencing an apocalypse, countless families were broken up and their wives were separated. Everyone in their family is still there, and her son and daughter are also with her. What does she have to lose? Mom, there are already level 4 wood superpowers at the vegetable base. From now on, I don't have to go to the vegetable base to spawn crops myself. If you get bored, just tell me and I will take time to go shopping with you. Len Ning smiled and said to Lei Mu. No need. Keep busy with your own business. It's better to build a safe zone with your elder brother as soon as possible, Lei Mu said. Len Ning. The Lei family spent 3 days of leisure in this way, and finally the working day arrived. Len Ning also started working on the right track and drove to the 5th branch office building in Kongzhen. When I arrived, I saw an acquaintance not far from the door. It was none other than Lu Qing, whom she and her eldest brother had rescued earlier at the Lei family villa in the city's central district. Lu Qing was wearing a thick down jacket, her hair had been trimmed, and she looked much more energetic than before. When Len Ning looked at him, he was pacing back and forth with a somewhat anxious look on his face, obviously waiting for someone. Since he was an acquaintance, Len Ning flashed in front of him and slowly stopped the car. Lu Qing was looking at the car in confusion when he saw Len Ning rolling down the window next to him. Miss Len, Lu Qing looked overjoyed when she saw Len Ning, and shouted to Len Ning in surprise. "Why are you here? Where is Mr. Lu?" Len Ning looked around Lu Qing with a smile to make sure he didn't see Lu Rud. "My dad was arranged by Mr. Lei to join the military headquarters. I came to find you," Lu Qing said with a bit of embarrassment. Len Ning was stunned. He roughly guessed Lu Qing's intention. She had actually intended to accept Lu Qing before. After all, she quite admired his character. In addition, he was a star before the end of the world, which can be regarded as some advantages. But her eldest brother was a little jealous of him, so she gave up the idea. Unexpectedly, he took the initiative to find her and even waited for her at the door of the 5th branch. There were soldiers standing guard at the door of the 5th hall, so he couldn't get in without anyone to guide him. Standing so far away was probably because he was driven away by soldiers. Thanks to her good eyesight, she noticed him. Otherwise, even if he waits here for a whole day, he may not be able to see her. "Come up. Let's go to the office and talk," Len Ning said, looking at Lu Qing's face that was blown white by the cold wind. "Thank you. Thank you, Miss Leng." Lu Qing thanked her hurriedly and opened the rear door of the car excitedly. After Lu Qing got in the car, Len Ning drove into the boundary of the 5th branch office building. After a while, Len Ning stopped the car at the gate of the 5th branch office building. After Lu Qing also got out of the car, Len Ning put the car into his space ring and took Lu Qing into the office building. The soldiers at the door of the office building were a little surprised to see that Lu Qing really knew their hall master. Originally, they were worried that Lu Qing would cause trouble, but Lu Qing just looked at them with a smile and followed their hall master through the door. The soldiers breathed a sigh of relief. Then, I felt more favorable toward this particularly good-looking man. Len Ning brought Lu Qing in. When people on the road saw her, they all saluted her and said hello. Seeing this situation, Lu Qing became more and more sure that he had come to the right place this time. Yes, after he and his father arrived at the Thunder Base, they quickly learned about the situation at the Thunder Base. I really didn't expect that he and his father were so lucky that they directly joined the largest and most powerful base in City A. This place is really not much different from before the apocalypse. Money can buy most of the things you need. Yesterday, he exchanged most of the precious metals in his hands into the currency here, then bought a house in Kongtown and moved here with his father. The real estate in Thunder Base is really expensive. His houses in Kinlei Mountain are unthinkable, and only the houses in Kongtown can be made into a small apartment. After learning that Kongzhen was the boundary of the 5th branch, and Miss Leng was the leader of the 5th branch, he immediately made a decision. My father also expressed support for this, saying that they were lucky to be able to buy a house at this time. My father has received an appointment from the military and will be able to go to work in the military in half a month. At that time, he can take the bus to solve the problem of commuting. When conditions improve, he will find a way to buy a car for his father to make him feel more relaxed. But that will happen later. What he has to do now is to help his father take good care of his health. He had already bought a lot of vegetables and meat, and he and his father had eaten heartily in the past 2 days. According to the situation, their bodies should be able to make up for themselves soon. However, meat is expensive, so he has to work hard in order to live a good life and save money to buy a car. When he first came to the Thunder Base, he found that it was extremely difficult to find a job that suited him. It was unrealistic to go to Mr. Lei, so he could only try his luck with Miss Leng. After all, the 5th branch itself was also in Kongzhen. So, he came here early this morning. Unexpectedly, outsiders were not allowed to enter or exit here. When he told the soldiers his intention to come, they not only refused to let him in, but drove him away. He had no choice but to wait further away, hoping to see Miss Leng. The hard work paid off. Miss Leng actually came and even stopped the car to invite him into the car. After following Miss Leng into the 5th branch office building, he realized that Miss Leng's status was really so high. And Mr. Lei. It's ridiculous that when he was at Lei's villa in the city's central district, he thought that Miss Leng had the final say among the two of them, and that Mr. Lei had no ability at all. After coming to the Thunder base to inquire about him, he found out that Mr. Lei was really hiding his secrets. He and Miss Leng turned out to be the two most powerful superpowers in the Thunder base, and they even teamed up to deal with a zombie wave of up to 50,000 people. Strictly speaking, Mr. Lei's supernatural power is even higher than Miss Leng. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 515. He was lucky enough to see Miss Leng's strength. Mr. Lei was stronger than Miss Leng. How powerful he must be. Thinking that she and her father were rescued by two such powerful figures, Lu Qing actually became a little excited. Len Ning took Lu Qing up his own exclusive ladder and went directly to the top floor where his office was. After getting out of the elevator, Len Ning took Lu Qing to his office. The structure of this office is very similar to Len Ning's office at the vegetable base. It is equally luxurious and fully equipped. Sit down. Len Ning smiled and said to Lu Qing, looking at Lu Qing's reserved look as she wanted to look around her office but didn't dare to look around. Thank you, Miss Leng, Lu Qing quickly thanked her. Then he went to the sofa and sat down cautiously. His father is a high-ranking official in Kyoto, and he comes from a family of high-ranking officials. In fact, he is already used to these things. But an apocalypse forced him and his father to survive at the hands of a group of barbarians. He and his father lived in that extremely bad environment for more than half a year, and both his self-esteem and thoughts were tortured to the point where he could no longer hold his head up. What he saw before him was a bit unbelievable to him. Even though he and his father were living in such abject poverty, Mr. Lei and Miss Leng still lived such a prosperous life. Such a gap made him feel a little ashamed of himself. Tea, Len Ning took out a tea set and asked. Yes. Thank you, Lu Qing said sheepishly. He could clearly feel that Miss Leng was much more enthusiastic towards him than when they were in the villa area in the city. Is it because they are more familiar with it? Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing, raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and pressed the button to boil water. Are you getting used to it now? He asked Lu Qing while arranging the tea sets. Adapt. It's so good here that I'm surprised, Lu Qing said quickly. Haha, where is Mr. Lu? It's best to find a healing power user to take a look at his body, Len Ning said with a smile. The military arranged for someone with healing powers to come and see him. My dad is in much better health. Thank you, Miss Leng, for your concern. Well, that's good. Where do you live now? Len Ning then asked casually. I live on Kangfu Street, only 10 minutes away from here, Lu Qing said quickly. Len Ning was stunned. Although houses in Kangzhen are cheaper than Lishan, they are still expensive. I exchanged all the precious metals I brought with me for money and bought a small house on Kangfu Street, Lu Qing said sheepishly. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and said, you have a good vision. Kangtown's population has been increasing, and the housing prices will increase. I didn't think much about it. I just wanted to find a place to stay first, Lu Qing said with a smile. Are you here looking for me? Len Ning suddenly asked. The water boiled, and Len Ning began to soak the teacup in hot water to clean the tea set. Lu Qing's body tensed up suddenly. Yes. I wanted to come and thank you in person. Oh? Is that it? Len Ning smiled at Lu Qing, as if he didn't take it seriously. More than that, Lu Qing forced herself mentally and finally said. The tea is ready, come and drink. Len Ning used a tong to prepare the tea, picked up a cup and placed it across the table from him. Thank you, Miss Leng. Lu Qing endured the panic and fear in her heart and walked to sit across from Len Ning's table. Then I went to serve tea. Because it was too hot, I immediately withdrew my hand. Almost knocked over the teacup. Haha, it has just been soaked and needs to cool down for a while. Len Ning looked at Lu Qing with a smile and said. Is she that scary? I don't even dare to look at myself anymore. No, I'm sorry. Lu Qing looked a little embarrassed. I was even more annoyed with myself. What big scene has he not seen before the end of the world? Now it was clear that Miss Leng was very kind to him, but he was extremely nervous. Hey, it's also my fault that Miss Leng was too powerful when she was in the villa area in the city. Also, after coming to Thunder Base, he heard all kinds of rumors about Miss Leng. These things made him unconsciously respect and awe her. Tell me, what do you want from me? Len Ning picked up the teacup and blew on the tea. I want to work under Miss Leng and surrender to the 5th branch. Lu Qing finally had the courage to look at Len Ning. But within 3 seconds, he lowered his head again, avoiding Len Ning's sight. Len Ning smiled. But I don't accept people without superpowers here, then he said deliberately. She admitted that she wanted to tease him at the moment. I can work as a civilian. Besides, doesn't Deputy Director Li Feng of the vegetable base have special powers? Lu Qing raised her head and said anxiously to Len Ning. Seeing the joking look on Len Ning's face, he lowered his head in embarrassment. I also know Li Feng. Yes, it seems he has done his homework. Len Ning nodded. Li Feng was in sales before the apocalypse, and he joined the vegetable base not long after the apocalypse. Now he has the status he has today, all because of his strength. Len Ning looked at Lu Qing. What are your specialties? Is it necessary for the position under me? Lu Qing was stunned. What's his specialty? Does being good at singing and dancing count? As soon as he thought of this, Lu Qing immediately gave up the idea of talking about this advantage. This is the end of the world, singing and dancing are of no use. But other things, he doesn't seem to have any good qualities. He was in his 3rd year at the end of his life, majoring in acting. Because I often have to make announcements about filming and the like, I rarely go to class. Hey, actually even if I went to class, I would learn performances that have nothing to do with practical skills after the apocalypse. What use can it have in these last days? For the first time in so many years, Lu Qing felt that his father was right. He really couldn't make a living by learning this performance. Could he really just do odd jobs like ordinary people? It is really difficult for him to lower his head. At this moment, Lu Qing was really filled with emotions. For the first time, I questioned my original decision to pursue the entertainment industry. I'm not afraid of hardship, I can learn, Lu Qing finally said. Haha, it's actually useless. Len Ning suddenly smiled. Although I don't need you here for the time being, you can develop on your own. Develop on your own, Lu Qing was a little confused. All walks of life are booming in the Thunder Base, and there is a lot of space. The entertainment industry is the same, Len Ning said with a smile. Lu Qing was stunned. Seeing Lu Qing's confused look, Len Ning sighed and said, do you know Lin's restaurant? Is it the Lin family who was the #1 private cook in China before the end of the world? Lu Qing asked doubtfully. Yeah. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Lin's boss Lin Lanshan has reopened Lin's at the Thunder Base. Lu Qing looked shocked. And the price is as expensive as ever. Len Ning curled his lips. Haha, of course, it will be free if I go to eat. Lu Qing's expression froze. Well, for a big guy like you, if you advertise to him for free, he won't lose anything for free. In the Thunder Base, there are actually many people like Lin doing business with high-end customers. Len Ning continued. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Now. Chapter 516. Lu Qing was stunned. Some thoughts flashed away in an instant. High-end restaurants, clubs, bars. Glancing at Lu Qing's thoughtful expression, Len Ning smiled. As the Thunder Base becomes more and more complete, everyone's life will get better and better, and wealthy superpowers will enjoy life and entertainment that match their income. So, the entertainment industry is not without opportunities, Len Ning reminded. Lu Qing suddenly felt enlightened. What do you think Miss Leng should do now? Lu Qing asked Len Ning with some excitement. He has regarded Len Ning as a good mentor who can point the way for him. Although you were an artist before the end of the world, you should be familiar with the door-to-door matters related to your industry. Now is the time when the industry is emerging and rebuilding. Why not try to be the founder of your industry? Her experience since the end of the world told her for her, it is really not difficult to succeed if she chooses what she is good at. Lu Qing's eyes lit up. That's so good. Miss Len, you are really my good teacher. Lu Qing stood up and quickly bowed to Len Ning. Len Ning smiled and waved. Don't be so polite. I'm not telling you this for nothing. Lu Qing was stunned and looked at Len Ning doubtfully. Then a smile appeared on his face. My father and I have not yet been able to repay Miss Len's kindness. But Lu Qing will obey all orders. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing. Haha, his words and attitude really make you feel like your help is not in vain. You have spent all your money to buy a house, so you don't have any start-up capital, right? Len Ning motioned Lu Qing to sit down, then picked up the teacup and drank the tea. Lu Qing sat back in her seat, looking a little disappointed. There really aren't many left, he then said. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing and took out a bag of money from his space ring. This money is for me to buy shares. I want 60% of the shares. The operation and management rights will be yours for the time being, Len Ning said lightly as he threw the money to Lu Qing. Lu Qing was shocked. When he opened the bag, he saw that it was filled with the largest denomination banknotes currently used by the Thunder base. He had exchanged these banknotes for precious metals and knew that the money was quite heavy, probably 4 or 5 times the value of his previous precious metals. When will we sign the contract? Lu Qing's heart was beating wildly, and she hurriedly asked. Not urgent. Lu Qing had doubts in her eyes, and her hand on the money bag loosened unconsciously. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing, walked to the desk, and picked up the phone on the table. Yes, the wired communication in the Thunder base is now connected. The landline is ready for use. After taking a look at the phone list on the table, Len Ning chose a number and dialed it. Come to my office, Len Ning said in a deep voice as soon as someone answered the phone. Then hung up the phone. Lu Qing looked at Len Ning, feeling a little uneasy. Miss Len's appearance really looks like those handsome big guys in the TV series he made before the end of the world. Seeing Len Ning looking at him and smiling, Lu Qing felt her heart beating so fast. Wait a moment, Len Ning smiled and stretched out his hand to Lu Qing, gesturing for Lu Qing to drink tea. Then he returned to the tea table. Yes, Lu Qing replied cautiously, touched the outer wall of the teacup and found that it was no longer hot. He quickly picked up the tea and took a sip. Good tea. Len Ning stopped talking to Lu Qing and continued to make tea for himself. Knock, knock, knock. After a while, finally, there was a knock on the door. Lu Qing was startled and couldn't help but look at the door. Come in, Len Ning said to the door with a smile. The door opened and a young man came in. It was Li Feng. Li Feng was slightly surprised to see that besides Len Ning, there was also a coquettish-looking man in the office. Hall master, but he quickly calmed down his emotions, walked not far from Len Ning, and bowed to Len Ning. Yeah, Len Ning responded. This is Lu Qing, the big star before the end of the world, Len Ning introduced with a smile. Li Feng was stunned. Superstar? No wonder he looks so good looking. He looked familiar just now. Lu Qing, yes, he saw the advertisement he endorsed before the end of the world. Lu Qing, this is Li Feng, Len Ning introduced to Lu Qing again. Lu Qing's eyes lit up and she quickly stood up and walked towards Li Feng. Deputy Director Li, I have long admired your name. As he said that, Lu Qing took the initiative and reached out to Li Feng. Hello, Mr. Lu. Li Feng smiled and stretched out his hand to shake his hand. No need to call me Deputy Director Li, I have left the vegetable base now, Li Feng said with a smile. Lu Qing was stunned. After knowing that Miss Len Ning was the leader of the 5th branch and the manager of the vegetable base, He asked around about the people around her. In the end, it was discovered that among those people, only Li Feng was a non-superpower. This is why he has special respect for Li Feng. After all, in this apocalyptic world, not having superpowers means that your abilities are lower than others, and it is really difficult to get ahead. But now, Li Feng said that he left the vegetable base. The situation at the vegetable base has basically stabilized. I have now transferred Li Feng to the 5th Branch Military Department as the head of the financial department, Len Ning said with a smile. So that's it? Congratulations, Manager Li. The admiration in Lu Qing's eyes became even brighter. Thank you, Li Feng replied with a smile. I asked you to come here to draw up a contract. Len Ning talked to Li Feng about business. Li Feng glanced at Lu Qing and said, yes. Then he replied to Len Ning. I invested a sum of money in Lu Qing and asked him to set up an entertainment company. The shares should be 60%. The operating and management rights will be given to him for the time being, Len Ning said directly. Li Feng looked at Lu Qing beside him again. He is also well informed at the Thunder base. When did this big star come? He also directly approached their hall leader to cooperate. He was really quite capable. Lu Qing smiled and nodded at him. Excuse me, Director Li. It should be, Li Feng said with a smile. Hall Master, I will make arrangements now. The contract will be delivered within 20 minutes. Li Feng then bowed to Len Ning and saluted. Yeah. Go ahead. Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth. Li Feng bowed to Len Ning, nodded to Lu Qing, and left. After Li Feng left the office and closed the door, Lu Qing returned to sit across from Len Ning's desk. I didn't expect Manager Li to be so young, Lu Qing said with a smile, looking at the door again. How old do you think he is? Len Ning remembered something and asked Lu Qing with a smile. Lu Qing was stunned. Look, I'm afraid he's less than 20 years old. She was probably younger than him. Haha, Len Ning laughed out loud. Lu Qing was confused. Am I calling him old? Manager Li looked really young. The year has passed and he is now 27 years old, Len Ning said with a smile, but it is true. Judging from his appearance, he is indeed young enough. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 517. Lu Qing was a little surprised. 27. 6 years older than him. Isn't this maintenance a little too good? Can I go to him to learn from him when I'm free? Seeing the emotion in Lu Qing's eyes, Len Ning put away his smile happily. He is well informed and very popular. He knows a thing or two about the situation in the Thunder base. If you encounter any trouble and need help, you can try to find him, Len Ning continued. Lu Qing's eyes flashed. I understand, thank you, Miss Lang. Then he quickly thanked Len Ning. Then, Len Ning continued to chat with Lu Qing for a while. Because Len Ning had always been very kind, Lu Qing felt much more comfortable getting along with her. Soon, Li Feng came back. He also brought the contract that Len Ning wanted. Len Ning directly gave the contract to Lu Qing and asked him to check it. Lu Qing glanced at it briefly and then signed. Len Ning didn't waste any time. He took the contract signed by Lu Qing and signed his own name. This is the number of the 5th branch and my office. If you have anything important, you can call me. Len Ning handed the signed contract to Lu Qing, then took out a piece of paper and copied down 2 telephone number. Thank you, Miss Leng. Lu Qing hurriedly took over the contract and phone number excitedly. You're welcome, Len Ning said to Lu Qing with a smile. Send it off for me. Then he looked at Li Feng. Yes, Li Feng said immediately. Miss Leng, I'll take my leave first, Lu Qing said to Len Ning. He originally wanted to stay for a while, but Miss Leng had already asked someone to send him away, and he couldn't stay any longer. Fortunately, during today's trip, he got far more than he asked for. He actually had the idea of starting an entertainment company before the end of the world. After all, most of the seniors who are successful in the industry will embark on the road of self-employment after becoming famous. Unfortunately, he was not mature enough before the end of the world, and these ideas were just distant goals. Now, with Miss Len injecting capital into him, he has the opportunity to experience the addiction of starting a business. He wants to work hard and achieve something. Yes, Len Ning responded to Lu Qing and then immersed himself in sorting out the tea sets. After sorting out the tea sets, Len Ning went to his desk to prepare for work. He glanced at the landline on the table. With a hint of playfulness in his eyes, he picked up the phone and dialed Lei Lei's landline number. Soon, the secretary's voice came from the other side. Ahem, transfer it to my elder brother. Len Ning coughed lightly and said to the secretary opposite. Oh, please wait a moment, miss. The secretary immediately heard Len Ning's voice and said hurriedly. Then he raised the corner of his mouth and transferred the call to Lei Lei's office. Hello. Soon, Lei Lei's calm voice came from the other end of the phone. A smile flashed in Len Ning's eyes. It's me. Then he played with the phone cord with his fingers and said to the person on the other end of the phone. Xiao Ning. Lei Lei's voice suddenly lost its seriousness and was vaguely tinged with joy. What are you doing, brother? Len Ning asked softly. I began to imagine Lei Lei busy with official duties in the office. Processing documents, Lei Lei said with a smile. What about you? Len Ning glanced at the documents on the table, and her mood suddenly dropped. I'm calling you. I just made an investment and want to talk to you, then he said with a wicked smile on his face. What investment? Lei Lei asked with a smile. Investment for Lu Qing, Len Ning said cheerfully. This guy was jealous before and wouldn't allow her to use Lu Qing. Now she is useless. She just invested a sum of money in him, so she has to give him face. He. Immediately, there was silence on the other side of the phone. The big star came to Lei Ting and wanted to work under me. I was afraid that you would be jealous, so I refused, Len Ning said to Lei Ting with a smile as if he had given Lei Ting enough face. But it's not good if I don't do anything when someone comes to me. So I invested some money in him to start an entertainment company. Of course, she really believed in Lu Qing when she made this decision and felt that it can work. Thunder Base is now booming with all kinds of industries, but the entertainment industry is relatively lacking. The market should be huge. Next, if the entertainment industry in the Thunder Base can develop, she will have more choices for dating her eldest brother, right? How much did you invest? Sell me the shares, Lei Lei said directly. Len Ning was stunned. Why are I selling you? It's my own business, he objected at the moment. I will pay 10 times for your shares, Lei Lei said immediately. Len Ning was stunned. In her mind, she subconsciously calculated how much 10 times the amount she invested would be. Ahem, do I love money so much, then? He pretended to be unhappy. 20 times, Thunder continued. Len Ning's eyes widened. 20 times. She knew that her eldest brother was very rich, but it suddenly increased tenfold. Did he really think that banknotes were just like paper? Up to 50 times. Before Len Ning could reply, Thunder made another offer. Len Ning. Ahem, eldest brother also thinks Lu Qing is of great investment value, Len Ning asked seriously. Regardless of the fact that her eldest brother is her boyfriend, he was still the president of Lei Group before the end of the world, and he even established a special investment company below. The investment performance is outstanding, which can be said to be very poisonous to the eyes. Yeah, Lei Lei responded. Len Ning's eyes flashed. Haha, that's what I think too. Brother, am I getting more and more discerning about investing? Len Ning said with a smile. It's a pity that she didn't have a tail, otherwise it would have been wagging. It's not just him who is valuable, Lei Lei interrupted Len Ning's rant. So, Len Ning asked humbly. He is Lu Rude's only son, Lei Lei said solemnly. Len Ning looked a little confused. What do you mean? Asked. I want Lu Qing to stay at Thunder Base forever, Thunder said. Len Ning was stunned. Something came to mind. Brother, what do you mean? Mr. Lu will leave the Thunder Base in the future. As soon as he asked, Len Ning almost confirmed his question. As time continues to progress, human communications will gradually be restored, and contacts and exchanges between bases will become more frequent. As the capital of China before the end of the world, Kyoto's status and strength have been greatly preserved. A person of Mr. Liu's level must have a very strong network of connections in Kyoto. Maybe it's just a matter of time before he returns to Kyoto. The eldest brother wants to keep Lu Qing, and now it seems that this purpose is very clear. Lu Qing will be the key to their contact with Mr. Lu, and also the key to their future contact with Kyoto. Thinking of this, Len Ning admired Lei Lei even more. The eldest brother's vision is far beyond her reach. So, brother, you didn't let me take Lu Qing in, wasn't it because you were jealous? Len Ning pouted, feeling a little unhappy. Ahem, it's true that I don't want you to have more contact with him, Lei Lei coughed. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 518. After saying this, I felt my ears feel hot. Len Ning's cheeks turned red, and she finally felt comfortable. That's pretty much it then, he said coquettishly. Knock knock knock. Len Ning was just about to continue chatting with Lei Ting about Lu Qing when the office door suddenly rang. Come in, he shouted towards the door. Brother, I have something to do here. Let's talk about Lu Qing's matter tonight then, Len Ning said to Lei Lei on the other end of the phone. Yes. You go about your business first, Lei Lei replied with a smile. Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth slightly and hung up the phone. At this time, the people outside the door have come in. It was Li Feng who Len Ning arranged to see Lu Qing off just now. Sent away? Len Ning asked Li Feng with a smile. The eldest brother directly gave her 50 times the money to buy her shares in Lu Qing's company. After making such a large amount of money in such a short period of time, how could she be in a bad mood? Yes. I personally sent him outside the building and arranged a car to take him away, Li Feng replied respectfully. What else happened when you came back? Len Ning continued to ask. Over at Quanglin, second young master Zhang said he wants to come see you tomorrow, Li Feng bowed and said to Len Ning. Len Ning was slightly startled. Teacher Zhang? He hasn't written a letter for a long time, then he muttered. I heard that he is doing well in Quanglin now. Not only did he allow the city lord Zhanglan to announce his identity as the second son of the Zhang family, he also successfully entered the Quanglin military headquarters and served as the head of the regiment with his military exploits. His strength has almost equaled that of the eldest son of the Zhang family, Zhanglan. In the end. However, there is still a long way to go before he can take control of Quanglin and completely replace Zhanglin as the heir to Quanglin base. The eldest brother only gave him 1 year, and it seems that almost 3 months have passed now. When will he arrive tomorrow? Len Ning asked Li Feng. Before 9 o'clock in the morning, Li Feng replied. Okay, when the time comes, you can go to Lishan to pick him up, and I'll meet him here. Len Ning thought for a moment and said. Since he is an acquaintance here, I can chat with him tomorrow morning. Because it was just the new year, her eldest brother's safety zone coordination plan had not yet been implemented, so she was relatively free now. She is actually quite satisfied with her current life. Ever since the 4th level wood-type superpower appeared in the vegetable base, she almost didn't have to go to the vegetable base. In addition, now that all major departments in the 5th branch are performing their own duties, she needs to do very little every day. Thinking of this, Len Ning felt a little sympathetic to Lei Lei. Yes, Li Feng said immediately. Yeah, Len Ning responded. After waiting for a while, I found that Li Feng seemed to have no intention of leaving. Is there anything else? So he asked Li Feng. Well, a complicated look flashed across Li Feng's face. Master, about Mr. Lu. Len Ning was stunned. What's wrong with Lu Qing? He then asked. My subordinate sent him out just now and learned that he is Mr. Liu's son. Did you invest in him because of Mr. Liu's relationship? Does Mr. Lei know about this? Li Feng asked worriedly. Regarding Mr. Liu, he heard it mentioned by the deputy hall master. Such a pre-apocalyptic political figure, his arrival is enough to attract the attention of all parties. Being able to absorb such a person and get involved with Kyoto is a great benefit for the Thunder base. But this Lu Qing's appearance is really too good, and the hall master also cares for him a little too much. They all see Mr. Lei's feelings for the hall master, so don't let anything go wrong because of a coquettish man who came out halfway. It's not all about Mr. Liu's face. Lu Qing has investment value, Len Ning said. Lu Qing looks weak, but has an extremely strong personality. Gratitudes and grievances are clear. He is willing to kill his enemies, but he is willing to give up his wealth to his benefactors. Anyway, I like her very much. Furthermore, he was an artist before the end of the world, and he was the kind who did well. If you do what you are good at, you have a higher probability of success. Looking at the admiring expression on Len Ning's face, Li Feng's expression turned even worse. Hall master, what do you mean to Lu Qing? Li Feng didn't say anything else. As the most loyal subordinate of the hall master, you need to correct the hall master in time when he makes a mistake. After all, the hall master's boyfriend is not an ordinary person. Len Ning was stunned. Looking at Li Feng's weird eyes, something suddenly occurred to him. You don't think I'm interested in Lu Qing, do you? Len Ning couldn't help but raise her voice. Li Feng frowned and nodded. When he sent Lu Qing out just now, he clearly felt that Lu Qing was too concerned about their hall master. It would be fine if this kind of thing was just one-sided by him, but it would be troublesome if it was two-way. The hall master and Mr. Lei are having a good time. What's going on with this male vixen coming to interfere? Want to mess with their fifth branch? Where are you thinking? Am I such a superficial person? Len Ning laughed. Lu Qing. Apart from his face, how could he compare to her elder brother? Oh no, even the eldest brother's appearance is not inferior to Lu Qing's, it's just that their styles are different. Li Feng nodded blankly. Picture. Len Ning. Brother, it's not in vain to win over you. Len Ning glanced at Li Feng angrily. Subordinate, I'm just fulfilling my duty of admonition, Li Feng said with an embarrassed look. Len Ning waved his hand. Okay, stop making excuses. Obviously he is afraid that I will do something wrong, offend my elder brother, and affect the fifth branch, Len Ning said angrily. I don't mean this. I follow the hall master and always put the hall master's interests first. Li Feng looked panicked and hurriedly said to Len Ning, cupping his fists. Len Ning glanced at Li Feng. Do you really put my interests first? Yes, Li Feng said quickly. What if I confront eldest brother? Len Ning said casually. Side to the hall master, Li Feng replied immediately. Then he looked at Len Ning with worried eyes. Isn't it? Does the hall master really want to abandon Mr. Lei for that male vixen? Haha, Len Ning couldn't help laughing. Li Feng's face was bitter. Still laughing. Don't worry. I have already told my elder brother about investing in Lu Qing. Moreover, he proposed to buy the shares I invested in Lu Qing at 50 times the price, Len Ning finally said. Li Feng was stunned. It's just ordinary friends, but it arouses so much suspicion among you. Did I really handle this matter improperly? Len Ning asked. Forget it, eldest brother, after all, he has been jealous for more than just this time. But as an outsider, Li Feng made these nonsensical speculations, which had to cause her to reflect. She hadn't decided whether to really sell her shares to her eldest brother before, but now that this happened, it didn't matter, she might as well sell it. Li Feng breathed a sigh of relief. It's because your attitude towards him is too good. Plus his appearance. Li Feng said embarrassedly. It was only when he was sending Lu Qing away that he remembered that before the end of the world, Lu Qing had a nickname called Girl Harvester, which was a nightmare for countless men. One of his brothers broke up with his girlfriend because of Lu Qing. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Now. Chapter 519. The reason was just because his brother said something bad about Lu Qing. Later, when his brother went to collect information about Lu Qing, he realized how terrifying this man was. More than 85% of his fans are girls, and most of them are crazy fans. The nickname given to him by the internet as Girl Harvester is well deserved. Do I have a good attitude towards him? Len Ning asked. After asking, Len Ning recalled the scenes when he and Lu Qing were getting along, and found that he seemed to care more about him than others. Li Feng nodded. It's a little bit better than others. Well, Lu Qing is a person who makes people feel comfortable to get along with, Len Ning said. This is her true feeling. In addition, Lu Qing's face is indeed pleasing to the eye and makes people relax their guard unconsciously. This is one of the reasons why she thinks so highly of him. Li Feng, sure enough, I was confused by the male vixen. Ahem, don't look at me like that. My eldest brother and I will get engaged next month. Looking at Li Feng's awkward eyes, Len Ning said simply. What's that look in your eyes? Does she seem like the kind of woman who wants to play around? Now that you have identified yourself as the eldest brother, you will work on him wholeheartedly, okay? Li Feng was stunned. A smile quickly followed. Congratulations, Hall Master. Then he hurriedly saluted Len Ning with clasped fists. The engagement is good. Once engaged, no one will dare to provoke the Hall Master. The Master of the Hall belongs to Mr. Lei, no one can covet him. Looking at Li Feng's expression, which looked happier than he was getting engaged, Len Ning felt a chill in his heart. Don't talk nonsense about Lu Qing's affairs, he then said. She had seen Li Feng's gossip. He was the first to spread the news about her and Lei Lei's relationship. There is nothing wrong with her and Lu Qing, but don't really let there be any scandal. Yes, yes. Hall Master, please rest assured, Li Feng said quickly. This is not a good thing, of course he has to keep it a secret. The Master of the Hall can make prompt decisions and return to the right path in time. As a subordinate, he naturally has to cover up for her. Okay, if you have nothing to do, just step back, Len Ning said unhappily. Yes, Li Feng finally left. After Li Feng left, Len Ning fell heavily on the back of the office chair. Her and Lu Qing? Li Feng really dares to think. After getting rid of these messy thoughts, Len Ning stood up and started to read the documents. Time passed by silently, and there were not many documents. Len Ning quickly completed his daily work. After lunch at noon, I thought I had nothing to do, so I simply left the office building and went for a walk outside. Seeing Kongzhen becoming more and more prosperous day by day, Len Ning felt quite proud. This was the result of their fifth branch. After walking around for a while, Len Ning realized that it was still early, so he simply went to a garrison on the city wall. Garrisoned in an important place, no idlers are allowed to enter. Before Len Ning could get closer, the guarding soldier shouted at her. Len Ning frowned slightly but did not stop. Soon two soldiers came over. Garrisoned in an important place, no one is allowed to enter. Leave quickly. Seeing that it was a little girl, the two soldiers looked calmer. But despite this, the warning is still very strong. Not an idler. Len Ning took out the epaulette that represented his identity from the space ring. See the Hall Master. The two of them were shocked when they saw the epaulettes. He quickly saluted Len Ning. Everyone said that the leader of their hall was a girl, only 18 years old, but she didn't expect the real person to look like this. Who is in charge here? Which branch does it belong to? Len Ning put away his epaulettes and asked the two of them. Back to the Hall Master, We are in the first helm team, Captain Dingwei. I will call the captain now. A soldier said. Yeah, Len Ning responded. The soldier immediately ran away. Len Ning led another soldier towards the city wall. As soon as he reached the city wall, Len Ning saw a tall man coming with several soldiers. I've met the hall master. Dingwei is far away from us. Dingwei felt anxious and said to Len Ning with his fists clasped. He turned out to be the hall master. How did she get here? Yeah, Len Ning glanced around. I happened to be passing by, so I came over to check on the situation, Len Ning said calmly. Where does this road lead to? City wall garrison points are usually located in highway fortresses or open areas. This is a highway fortress. In other words, if she went out from here and followed the highway, she might be able to go directly into the city. It is said that you can go to City B by taking this road before the end of the world, Dingwei replied. But it's been so long since the end of the world, and the road conditions are unclear. Maybe it's dead. Seeing the surprise in Len Ning's eyes, Dingwei quickly continued. Len Ning's eyes turned a lot lighter as expected. Open the door, I'll go outside and take a look, Len Ning continued. It was a coincidence that she found her way to City B. This a flash of hesitation flashed across Dingwei's face. Len Ning looked at Dingwei. Yes, Dingwei finally said. The strength of the hall leader is obvious to all, and she should be able to ensure her own safety. Open the door, so Dingwei shouted to the tower. Immediately, the city gate slowly opened. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and took out his car from his space ring. I'm going out for a walk to check the traffic conditions, and I'll be back before 6 in the afternoon. Just open the door for me then. Before getting in the car, Len Ning said to Dingwei. Yes, Dingwei replied immediately. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and got in the car. Then he started the car and drove out of Kongzhen. Seeing the city gate closed in the rear-view mirror, Len Ning drove forward with confidence. Len Ning soon discovered that the damage to the mountain road was much more serious than that in the city. The weeds on both sides of the road have grown very tall. There are also many weeds on the highway that have broken free from the constraints of reinforced concrete and grown out, destroying the road surface. After barely driving for a while, Len Ning finally stopped the car. The chassis of her car was not high enough. If she forced herself to continue driving, she might not be able to hold on for long. After getting out of the car, Len Ning patted the car body impatiently, and then put the car back into the space ring. Then he took out the off-road vehicle directly. The road condition is so bad. It seems that it will be difficult to go to City B through this road in the future. However, the place she walked after coming out was not too far, and maybe the road conditions would be better later. After all, this area is in the mountains, with the lushest vegetation. Thinking of this, Len Ning decided to move on to see the road conditions ahead. So, Len Ning got on the off-road vehicle. Drive the off-road vehicle on the road with bad road conditions. The car was driving halfway down the road when suddenly a branch suddenly appeared out of thin air in front of him, blocking the direction of the off-road vehicle. Len Ning's expression changed and he quickly stepped on the brakes. Just as the shock subsided, two vines suddenly sprang out and wrapped directly around the off-road vehicle. Len Ning was shocked. Finally decided something was wrong. Quickly seized the opportunity to open the door and get out of the car. After getting off the vehicle, Len Ning quickly escaped from the off-road vehicle. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 520. Then he watched the entire off-road vehicle being pulled up by several vines, lifting it higher and higher. Then, two more extremely thick vines broke through the car window and stretched into the car. After confirming that there was nothing inside, The off-road vehicle was thrown away and rolled onto the wasteland on the side of the road. Len Ning was shocked. It's actually a mutation. She had only heard of this thing in her previous life, but had never seen it before. And it was almost the 5th year after the end of the world when I heard about mutated plants. Although she had never seen it before, she knew it was a mutated plant. It is still a vine plant like Xiaoman, which is the most difficult one. Seeing 2 vines flying towards him, Len Ning quickly released Xiaoman and used his wood power. Xiaoman quickly grew vines and directly entangled the flying vines, locking them tightly. But soon, new vines flew towards Len Ning. Len Ning was not in a hurry and continued to direct Xiaoman to deal with it. At the same time, the search for the source of the vines began. When another wave of vines arrived, Xiaoman finally couldn't control his temper, and directly generated a sharp knife with thorns, cutting as many as it came. Len Ning investigated and finally saw the location of the mutated plant. These vines actually come from a huge acacia tree. The only reason you got into trouble with me is your bad luck. Len Ning raised the corners of his lips and climbed up step by step on Xiaoman's vines. Soon, Len Ning came to a place not far from the locust tree, and with the help of Xiaoman's vines, he flew into the air and finally saw the whole of the locust tree. This is an old acacia tree with a trunk as big as the arms of 2 adults. Unlike other big trees that lose their leaves in winter, it still has lush branches and leaves. As for why it lived so well, the piles of bones and human and animal remains under the tree are the answer. In ancient China, acacia has been called a ghost tree since ancient times. If someone else saw this situation, they might really think that the acacia tree had become a spirit. It's no wonder that she didn't encounter a single zombie or living creature all the way out of Kongtown. She was afraid that all the zombies and animals passing by this road would become its fertilizer. The acacia tree failed to attack Len Ning one after another, and was stopped by Xiaoman every time. Despite trying to stop him, Xiaoman kept cutting off its vines. This soon triggered his rage. Unfortunately, in the face of absolute strength, it still couldn't get even close to Len Ning. Len Ning looked at the situation for a while and didn't want to delay any longer. Immediately, he activated his mental power and made Xiaoman grow a sharp giant axe. At the same time, the powerful 4th-level mental pressure also moved towards the acacia tree. Squeak, 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 squeak. Suddenly, Len Ning seemed to hear some auditory hallucination. After a slight pause in mental strength, Len Ning had some doubts in his heart, but he didn't think too much and prepared to get rid of the acacia. Zhizzy, squeak, squeak, squeak. The sound just now sounded again. Len Ning was startled and suddenly looked at the acacia tree opposite, which was stretching out its vines to block the giant axe. The little brute has infinite strength and can continuously make the axe blade sharper. How can this acacia be blocked by its vines? The acacia vines could only continue to break under the giant axe. The instinct of survival prompted it to continuously stretch out vines to prevent the giant axe from approaching it. Unfortunately, it was destined to be in vain. It could only watch helplessly as the giant axe struck at its branches. Hiss! With a sound, a huge branch of the acacia tree had been cut off. Squeak! This time, Len Ning felt that the sound was very miserable. Zhizzy! Another strong branch. Len Ning was finally sure that the sound she had hallucinated actually came from the acacia tree opposite. Although she couldn't understand Yang Hui's words, she could hear the emotion in Yang Hui's voice. It actually seemed to be asking for help from her. Squeak! In the blink of an eye, Xiaoman cut down the lush branches of the acacia tree to only 3. Die! At this time, Len Ning heard Xiaoman's cold voice in his consciousness. Seeing that the giant axe was going to hit the main branch of the acacia tree this time, Len Ning finally spoke up. Stop! The giant axe paused, and then he didn't listen to Len Ning and slashed straight towards the main branch of the acacia tree. Len Ning frowned and directly used his mental power. Xiaomen's giant axe was forced to stop less than 10 centimeters from the main branch of the acacia tree. Later, Len Ning directly forced Xiaomen to take back the giant axe, turning it back into a vine. After a while, squeak, 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 Len Ning finally heard Acacia's voice again. There was crying and joy in the voice, as if thanking her. "What's going on?" Len Ning asked Xiaomen through the sea of consciousness. Since reaching the 4th level, Xiaomen can communicate with her in human language. It's just that he is too lazy and likes to hum and act coquettishly with her, so he rarely talks to her. Just now it went against itself and wanted to kill the acacia tree in a rage. This behavior was too abnormal. And she didn't like it very much. It wants to hurt the master. Damn it, Xiaomen's childish reply echoed in Len Ning's sea of consciousness. Then he angrily pointed several vines at the acacia tree opposite. Squeak, squeak, the branches of the acacia tree immediately trembled, and Len Ning made a pitiful cry. Len Ning glanced at Yang Huai, who was in a state of ruin and was still crying and begging for mercy, and felt something was wrong in his heart. Tell the truth, Len Ning stopped Xiaomen directly, and then said in a deep voice. She knew that Xiaomen, her spiritual pet, besides loving her as his master, had no tolerance for anyone or anything else, and was even quite cruel most of the time. But she felt that Xiaomen's desire to kill the acacia tree this time was not due to his nature, at least it was different from the previous desire to kill someone. Yes, the truth, the childish voice said immediately. But the momentum is obviously lacking. Len Ning's face immediately darkened. Master, master. Don't be angry, Xiaomen said quickly after seeing that he had broken the skill. I usually indulge you too much, right? Looking at Xiaomen in the consciousness-y space, the displeasure on Len Ning's face became even stronger. Master, don't be angry. Xiaomen, wrong, Xiaomen quickly apologized. A small green vine flew to Len Ning's wrist, and he kept acting coquettishly and cutely, trying to please Len Ning. But Len Ning still had a cold face, showing no sign of forgiveness. If you don't tell me, stay here forever and don't go out, Len Ning said with a cold face. She loves Xiaomen and regards Xiaomen as her closest comrade in arms. But she knew better that she was Xiaomen's master, and she would never allow her spiritual pet to deceive her in any way. In particular, Xiaomen has a mysterious origin, and his true identity is the terrifying prehistoric creature sky-swallowing vine. She couldn't control Xiaomen 100%, she would rather let it sleep forever in her sea of consciousness space. Xiaomen, say. Master, you are not angry. Xiaomen was instantly frightened when he heard that Len Ning wanted to punish him so severely. Len Ning was expressionless. It wants to snatch the owner from Xiaomen. Xiaomen doesn't agree, Xiaomen said aggrievedly. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 521. The owner belongs to it, no one can steal it. It's enough to have a spiritual pet to protect its owner, don't even think about other plants. Len Ning was stunned. Steal the owner? It didn't want to kill me, Len Ning said directly as he had some guesses in his mind. Used in declarative mood. Recalling what had just happened, Yang Huai attacked her SUV with vines, and then extended the vines into the car to catch her. Her first thought at the time was that Yang Huai wanted to capture her and use her as food like the zombies and animals, but now it seemed that maybe that was not the case. But you want to recognize me as your master? Seeing that Xiaomen didn't speak, Len Ning continued in a declarative tone. The master belongs to Xiaomen, Xiaomen said angrily. Then it flew away from Len Ning's arm with a swish sound, and then stood upright in the mid-air in front of Len Ning, facing Len Ning face to face. So, it really wants to recognize me as its master, Len Ning said solemnly. He didn't notice Xiaomen's displeasure and threats at all. Master soon, Xiaomen's voice softened again, and he hurriedly climbed onto Len Ning's arm again, it's enough for Xiaoman to accompany Master. Master doesn't want that smelly tree. Xiaoman felt a little flustered, and his words became more fluent. Woo, Master, please don't let Xiaoman go. We have you. Seeing that there was no wave on Len Ning's face, Xiaoman became even more panicked and started crying all of a sudden. Woo, Xiaoman, please don't leave your master, we have you. The childish voice became more and more sad as she cried, causing Len Ning, who was originally a little irritable, to feel distressed. Who would have thought that the heaven-swallowing vine that everyone feared was actually only as big as a child of a few years old? Len Ning sighed, and finally reached out and touched the vine that Xiaoman was shaking from crying. Xiaoman's body immediately froze, and then he sobbed and rubbed into Len Ning's hand. The master and the servant stayed like this quietly for a while. Tell me, what's going on? After Xiaoman stopped crying, Len Ning continued to ask. Xiaoman's body trembled, and he raised his flower plate again on guard. I need stronger power to protect the people I want to protect. Len Ning looked at Xiaoman and said. There was strong determination in his eyes. Master gives Xiaoman delicious food, and Xiaoman can become stronger with his master. Xiaoman said immediately. The cores are delicious. They are not only delicious but also make it stronger and more powerful. And it is born from its master. The stronger it becomes, the stronger its master will become. Unfortunately, the owner has been unwilling to give it too much delicious food, and its strength has grown very slowly. Len Ning looked at Xiaoman with a cold look. Xiaoman's flower plate immediately dodges and hangs down. The violent energy in your body is too strong. With my current ability, I can still suppress you. If you are really allowed to savagely absorb energy and grow, I will not be able to suppress you by then. The violent energy will completely devour you, and I estimate I will be your first sacrifice. Len Ning looked at Xiaoman and said. Xiaoman suddenly lifted the flower plate again. Suppressing you is not just to control you. It is also for our mutual safety. Len Ning sighed. She was reborn because of Xiaoman, and relied on Xiaoman to get all the way to where she is now. Xiaoman was a comrade in arms, a benefactor, and even a bit like a relative to her. Although Xiaoman is a plant, she can feel that it already has emotions that only humans can have. Saying this can be regarded as her explaining to it. No, no, Xiaoman will not hurt his master. Whoever hurts his master, Xiaoman, kill him, Xiaoman said hurriedly and excitedly. Len Ning had a smile on her face, and her hand touched Xiaoman's flower plate again. Of course I believe you won't hurt me. But when the day comes that you can't suppress your energy, you will no longer be you. Your bloodthirsty instinct will make you kill all living things around you. Xiaoman's body trembled. Xiaoman, don't become stronger. Xiaoman, don't become a lunatic. Xiaoman must always be with his master, he then said incoherently. Will it kill its owner? No, if so, it would rather not become stronger. It wants to be with its owner forever. The corners of Len Ning's mouth raised, and a feeling of love and pity surged in his heart. The look in Xiaoman's eyes finally lost its sternness and harshness. If that locust tree can really be used by me, it will be a great good thing for me and the thunder base. After a while, Len Ning continued. Xiaoman was silent. If the master accepts that smelly tree, will he stop hurting Xiaoman? Then he said sadly. Len Ning was stunned. No, Xiaoman is special in my heart. He is a family member. Then a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Family, Xiaoman said confusedly. Same as the master's mother and eldest brother. The two humans are what the master cares about most. She could sense that her feelings for them were different from those for all other humans. Even more than any emotion for any other creature, including it. Len Ning was startled. He saw Xiaoman's flower plate looking straight at him. After a while, he finally reached out and touched Xiaoman's flower plate again. Yeah, the same. Then he smiled softly. Xiaoman didn't ask her, and she didn't realize that her feelings for Xiaoman actually surpassed the relationship between master and servant. Otherwise, when Xiaoman almost killed Yuan Xing, she wouldn't have just scolded him. And later at the military headquarters, it almost killed Blue Snake, but she didn't punish Xiaoman in any substantial way. Xiaoman was born because of her. Rather than treating her as his master, it is better to say that he regards her as his mother. It behaves coquettishly and cutely with itself, asking for credit and seeking rewards. This is simply the mentality of a child. Xiaoman Xia immediately trembled with joy. Then Xiaoman can call the master mom from now on, then the childish voice said excitedly. The owner is its mother, the person closest to it. Len Ning was stunned. Mother? She is still an unmarried girl. Master, are you okay? He didn't hear Len Ning's reply for a while, and Xiaoman coquettishly touched Len Ning's hand. Len Ning only felt itchy in the palm of her hand. Okay, he finally replied with a smile. Although this little thing has the same mind as a baby, he actually knows how to observe words and emotions. Now that she dares to make such a request, she is right. She really loves it. Yeah, great. Xiaoman has a mother. Xiaoman loves her mother the most, Xiaoman shouted excitedly and flew out from Len Ning's arm. Then he suddenly rushed to Len Ning's cheek. Taking advantage of Len Ning's unpreparedness, he slapped her cheek with the flower plate. Hey! Len Ning felt a little itchy and reached out to touch the place where Xiaoman had just kissed her. A doting smile appeared on his face. Since that smelly tree is useful to mom, let's take it. After a while, Xiaoman finally had enough of the happy circles and returned to Len Ning's wrist. Len Ning smiled calmly. But, agree in advance. Mom is mine, and that smelly tree can only be a pet. Xiaoman immediately carried the flower plate and said to Len Ning.